The following has been brought to you by SJP World Media.
Good.
Yo, Riddle, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
We talk about my family, man. Let's talk about your family. Oh, wait, you ain't got one because your wife divorced you and took your kids and they don't want to see you anymore, huh?
What did you just say?
Yeah, you heard me.
Where are you? Where are you?
I'm here. Come find me.
Dude, you don't get. I'm not gonna beat you up. I'm gonna you up, bro. Where the are you?
All right,
where are you?
Come find me.
Where are you? Dude, you don't get. I'm gonna smash your face in.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Keep playing games, bro. Keep playing games.
Cheers, please.
You're listening to In the Corner with Benny Mac. Unfiltered, uncensored, and unforgiving. Here's the man in the corner, Benny Mac.
Welcome to SJP World Media. Welcome to In the Corner. Hope you're having a good day. Had a good weekend. Enjoyed the beers, like myself did. Music festival from down the road. Hope you enjoyed some wrestling this week. A lot of wrestling. An absolute lot of wrestling. Going forward. And we are literally days away, ladies and gents, from Clash at the Castle. Raw this week was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I tell you what, the build for Clash of the Castle is getting there. Raw overall this week for me was okay, average at best. In terms of some of the stuff, but on the other side of things, it was bloody awesome. As you heard at the top of the show there, that was Matt Riddle and Seth freaking Rollins. And some F-bombs were dropped on Raw. Okay, they were bleeped out, but they were dropped on Raw. And it was pretty impressive, to be fair. Probably one of the highlights of the night. So this we're going to talk about it right now because it's probably going to be the most talked about moment this week in terms of Raw, at least anyway. They did their typical sort of... Corey Graves hosted it. They did a Corey Graves interview in Seth and Matt Riddle. And but probably what I should say first, actually, is that there was some video footage going around on social media from earlier in the day. Now, you know it's a work because Seth was wearing his sparkly clothes, but even so, they had fans filming them, and they started scrapping in the parking lot outside of where they were in Pittsburgh, and it went online, and it got a lot of attention. You may have seen it, and it adds that realism to it, to be fair. So I know these two generally had a problem with each other a couple of years ago. I'm assuming that's over with, but I don't know. So it is blurring the lines a little bit, which I quite like in wrestling. You don't get that very much anymore, do you? So it was quite cool to see that happen. But yeah, they had this interview with Corey Graves asking a fear questions, and it ended with Matt Riddle saying to Seth, "We're going to find out who's the man in the family, because as far as I can see, it's Becky, basically." And he cut to a break, and they showed this clip that I just played you at the top of the show, and basically it was them supposed to be off air, and Seth says, "As you heard, are you still there?" And then drops that little comment in about the fact that Riddle is obviously now divorced. So again, playing on real life stuff that fans know. And quite an intense moment. I tell you what, Clash of the Castle. Me and NJB called this a while back, but for SummerSlam, we were really looking forward to this match at SummerSlam. But you know what? Shelving it in the way they did and building it up from SummerSlam with them having a scrap until now has been bloody amazing. Clash, I think, hopefully, touch on wood, I'm still going to stand by it. Should be a hell of a match, Clash of the Castle. We're going to talk more about that, though, in tomorrow's episode of In the Corner. NGB will be joining me, and we will be chatting away about Clash at the Castle, what it's going to be, we think it's going to be like, our predictions, and any other news sort of come. Obviously, then we still got the SmackDown review, which will lead in to September 3rd, which is when Clash of the Castle is. If you're in the UK, 5:30, I believe it starts over here in the UK. Probably a pre-show and stuff, but that's when it's starting. It's going to be nice to be able to watch some wrestling without having to worry about being up too late and stuff, and some WWE. And we'll talk about our thoughts about it. Hopefully, we'll get it recorded, and that'll be up on the Monday. And then obviously we have Raw. I'll be back with you on Tuesday with a Raw recap as well. So a lot of stuff building up. I'm not going to go through every match on Raw, to be honest. I'm just going to start doing more of a recap in a sense of the highlights, what I figure to be highlights, and I'm sure many of you will. I will mention quickly, because it's going to lead into something later on, but Raw once again kicked off with a match rather than a promo. AJ Styles and Dolph Ziggler team up against the Judgment Day members, Balor and Priest, with Rhea Ripley on the outside. There's a few moments in this match, actually, that were not botches as such, but Damian Priest almost forgetting where he was in certain areas. And you can almost see AJ and Dolph a few times looking at Priest especially. There are moments where you can sort of see them going, I'm going to do... Do you know, it's hard to explain, but I'm going to do this to you now, if that makes any sense. So yeah, it was an average match at best, which is quite bad really, because Dolph Ziggler and AJ Styles have been a bit of a roll lately. I'm hoping to see more of those going forward. Judgment Day, obviously last week Priest lost to Edge in that street fight they had, Extreme Rules, whatever you want to call it, no holds barred match. All the same thing at the end of the day. But they get the win. Damian Priest especially gets the W over while beating Dolph Ziggler. So again, Dolph Ziggler's on a bit of a losing streak at the moment. But I think to keep Priest's momentum going, because generally he has been really good. Tonight, last night on Raw now, he just didn't look comfortable in this setup. I don't know what was going on. If you watch the match, you'll see what I mean. But you can see there's moments where they're trying to link in together, or they're not sure of what's coming next, or Priest... I don't know who forgot. It looks like Priest forgot, but I don't know. It wasn't the best of matches anyway. After the match, though, Edge arrives backstage in a car, and they see him walking to the ring. The Judgment Day go back into the ring and wait for Edge. They cut a bit of a promo saying Edge is by himself, there's no one here to help him, Beth's not here tonight, and stuff like that. Edge comes out, cuts a pretty good promo back on them. I could have taught you so many things, basically, is what Edge is saying, and I can't, you still haven't learnt, and you think I'm silly or stupid to come here alone. I'm not alone. And the Mysterios come out, Dominic and Ray come out with kendo sticks, and they wipe out the male members of the Judgment Day. Edge is fighting Priest, and Ray's kind of taking care of Finn. It leaves Dominic in the ring with Rhea Ripley. Dominic's trying to keep Rhea away from him, but doesn't want to hit her, and he's kind of swinging to gesture the kendo sticks as if I'm going to hit you, but he doesn't. Rhea actually manages to sort of talk Dom down and convince him to give him the kendo stick. And you think, well, this isn't going to be good, because she'll have no problem using that on Dominic Mysterio. But before that can happen, Edge and Ray get back in the ring. Then the Finn and Priest get in, and they basically pull Rhea out the ring and say it's not over. That's one of the matches we will be talking about. Clash. It's going to be Edge and Rey Mysterio. Now, this leads into quite a nice thing, because this whole moment between Dom and Rhea, which I said a few weeks ago, I said it'd be quite cool to see Dom maybe join the Judgment Day. I think this might be happening. And especially when we cut later on in the show, there's a promo. It's now Edge and Ray taking on the Judgment Day of Priest and Finn Balor. And Dom does say to Ray, is there going to be I thought this was a family thing, basically. And although he kind of understands where his dad's coming from, he makes a comment of, I need someone with experience to team up with me. Now, the whole Judgment Day thing is them legends taking their spots. Now, although Ray is Dom's dad and he is a legend in the business, this could be a good in for... And I've seen some negativity for this already online. And to be honest, I quite like the idea of Dom joining the Judgment Day, maybe having that father-son pull of maybe Ray down the line trying to convince Dom, trying to get Dom back, again. Maybe a ladder match, a custody match again, but for back in the day. I don't know. But I like the idea of this. I like the potential of it. And a good young group. Although you say that Finn Balor's got the experience, Rhea, they've all got experience, but Finn obviously more so. To be honest, the more and more I watch the Judgment Day, Priest is perceived to be the somewhat leader, even though they're equal, they say. As it's been going on, I'm starting to feel like Rhea might be kind of the leader to a degree. I could be wrong on that, but yeah. There was a night. So yeah, I think we might be seeing Dom turn possibly at Clash of the Castle. I don't know. We'll talk more about that on tomorrow's show. I just want to get through Raw already today. And also give us a follow on Twitter at SJP World Media or where we're on. And also for this show at In the Corner WWE. That'd be brilliant. And obviously you can see what I'm doing, other things as well at Benny Mac, BenNnyMack. There is the plug, and we're done with that. So, generally are pretty good. We do have, obviously, last week Miz got kidnapped, in air quotes, I say, by Dexter Lumis, and basically Miz is okay. They say there's a conversation between Adam Pearce, Miz, and Tommaso Ciampa backstage, and they're saying that because Miz didn't say anything, Lumis has been released. They can only press charges on him for trespassing. Because Miz won't talk about what happened, they can't do a lot more about it. Kind of makes sense, I guess. Miz is visibly shaken. He's a bit off his game, but he is going to be competing against Bobby Lashley, which he does a bit later on. We'll talk about that in a mo. So that was quite a nice way of sort of summing up what happened last week in Canada with The Miz. So yeah, he'll be taking on Lashley in a bit. We have a 6-women tag team match. I love the women's division. I think it's a bloody great thing. They've got better over the years, and obviously the Women's Revolution, we're all very aware of it. It's been amazing, and there are still some bloody great matches had and to be had within this division in WWE. But this feels a little bit of the old. I mean, it's there just for them to sort of promote Clash of the Castle for Belair. So it's, Belair and Alexa Bliss and Asuka taking on 3, I'm assuming, local competitors. And they win. You can know they're going to win. And it's a very short match. And again, I said this last week, I think, in either this show or the SmackDown show, but it's like, it feels like you're just kind of, considering you have a 3-hour time slot, I'm not saying you have a 3-hour freaking tag team match, but come on, you can do probably a bit more, even with these local competitors. Maybe they have a better chance of getting over. More than likely, these 3 women were put in to see what they're liking for TV, and maybe we'll see more of them in NXT or even Raw, SmackDown down the line. But it's a basic ass match, and it's a shame because you got Alexa Bliss, Bianca Belair, and Asuka, who are all well capable of putting on 5-star matches. That's all I got to say about it. As you'd expect, Belair and Bliss and all that go over. They cut a bit of a promo about Clash of Champions. Clash of Champions. I did it again. Look, I got it. Look, I'm gonna. Cheers, please. Yeah, I did. Clash at the Castle in Cardiff. My bad. There we go. So yeah, it is what it is. It was not. I'm only mentioning it because it annoyed me, really, to be honest with you. Next up, we have Kurt Angle come out. He comes to the ring. He's barely the "You Suck" chants come on. The response isn't as big of a pop as I was expecting. Bearing in mind it is in Pittsburgh, which is where Angle's from. But the "You Suck" chants begin. It's good to see Angle again. I mean, he barely gets a sentence out. He basically pushes Clash at the Castle. And Otis and Gable come out. So I could have done this, couldn't I, with the Shusha game, but I just did it, so I won't do it again. There's a great episode of Table for 3 actually on WWE Network with these 3 because they all looked up to Angle and they've all been sort of like amateur or Olympic. I think Otis was a weightlifter. Chad Gable, obviously an actual shoot wrestler. So that was quite a good episode of Table 3. You wouldn't put those 3 together normally, but actually it was a good episode. So give it a watch if you've got the WWE Network. But ultimately they want Angle to join the Alpha Academy, which Angle declines, as you'd expect. And then Chad Gable tries to shoosh Angle. Then Angle says, "Did you shoosh me?" And it just goes back and forth, and they keep shooshing each other. And then Chad says, well, since you're not going to join us, Otis basically teach Angle a lesson. And it looks like Angle and Otis are going to face off. And then the Street Profits come out, who are not happy because Maximum Male Models on SmackDown this past week messed up their bus. I don't know if I mentioned that on the... I think I did mention it briefly. Very short segment. We haven't seen much of these Maximum Male Models at the moment. It's all backstage stuff, apart from like one in-ring promo I've seen so far. So the Street Profit, it's a nice little segue there. They're keeping the stories going on Raw and SmackDown now. If something happened in particular, not everything, but it's nice to have those little mentions, and it's also a little mention of what could possibly happen Friday night before Clash at the Castle. They're basically working this stipulation of the Profit. So you know what's going to happen. Profits are going to take on Alpha Academy with Kurt Angle ringside. The stipulation is that if Alpha Academy wins, then Angle has to join the Alpha Academy and do what they say, and then the Profits obviously just want to fight for Kurt Angle's honor, I suppose, is a better way of putting it. And do you know what? This was a bloody brilliant tag team match between Alpha Academy and Street Profits. Freaking awesome, to be totally honest. Probably one of the best matches on the card, for me at least. There's a lot of tag team wrestling at the moment, I've noticed, in WWE, which is good to get everybody on the card. I know these, like I moaned a minute ago about the six women match with Oscar and everything, but it just could have been better. You've got time. Obviously, you need to max out the show, I guess, so they want to fit other things in. I understand that, but it's frustrating to see. I don't want the women's division to fall back into what it was back in like 2010 when they're like 3-minute matches, because we know that not just the women, but everybody, they can put on freaking great matches if they're allowed to. They've got to earn that trust, I suppose. But yeah. A brilliant tag team match between the Profits and Alpha Academy. Profits take the win. Kurt Angle obviously doesn't have to join Alpha Academy. And then they get the Montez Ford gives Angle one of their cups to drink out of. Angle drinks it, but doesn't like it, spits it out, goes, what the heck is that? Then Angle breaks out the hard stuff, and they all drink milk together, which is absolutely hilarious to see. So there's a lot of Angle tropes in there, I guess, and moments. But you know what? I like it. I like to see it. Kurt Angle's a freaking legend. He's a Hall of Famer. Former WWF champion, had a greatest freaking rookie year in WWE at the time, winning pretty much every singles title that was available to him at the time, and has had freaking epic matches with guys like Undertaker and Triple H and Rock and Steven Richards, Chris Benoit, and other people, and Jericho and stuff like that. So, and that's just to mention a few. Obviously, he had John Cena's debut match back in 2002 on SmackDown. Still one of my favorite ones to watch to this day. Great match, to be fair. Good crowd interaction. Anyway. So yeah, that was it's quite a nice moment to see Kurt Angle. And pretty good. So, we'll talk more. I've already spoke about Matt Riddle, haven't I? Yes, I have. So yeah, we moved to Lashley versus Miz. It's a good, solid performance from both men. There's a nice little thing where Dexter Lumis appears in the crowd. I think we know how the Shield used to enter with the lights on him, and Miz is shouting, he's up there, and Tommaso Ciampa's like trying to get him focused on Lashley. By the time Tommaso Ciampa turns around, Lumis is gone, so it makes you feel like that Miz feels like he's going crazy, at least in terms towards Tommaso Ciampa. So I'm wondering where this is going to go. After the distraction, Miz loses to the Bobby Lashley into the Hurt Lock. Bobby Lashley's on a roll at the moment. Whatever they do with this Undisputed Championship, again, I still under the impression they're going to split the titles at some point and somehow. We still have SmackDown to go. As I said, maybe on SmackDown show, maybe Theory's money cash-in is only for the WWE title, which would be a good way of splitting the titles up. Or what I said a few weeks ago, I think was I know I said it a few weeks ago. I forget which show, but either way, I'd like to see maybe bring back the old World Heavyweight Championship. So if they end up if Drew wins or Roman wins, they can leave that title on SmackDown. Maybe reintroduce the World Heavyweight Championship on Raw, which would be freaking amazing. Even if they got to update it a little bit. But I'd love to see that big gold bout again. I'm not sure how. I don't necessarily want a massive WWE logo on it, but it is for what it is. So yeah, good performance in the match. There's not much to say about it. Story building between Dexter Lumis and Miz. It's going to be interesting to see what they reveal of Lumis's motivation for targeting the Miz. It should be interesting to see how they actually explain that. But it's going to be going on. I think we might. I don't know whether we're going to see anything about a Clash of the Castle about it, but this is going to build, I think, for the next month. We might see something at the next pay-per-view, premium event, whatever you want to call it. Little throwback happened not long after this. Edge and Angle meet up. Mysterios are sat in the locker room as well. Edge, some of you may know this, some of you may not. If you're not, look it up online. Edge giving Angle pictures back in the day with comments on the back of them. Edge walks up to Angle and says, I brought you some pictures. And Angle looks on the first one, looks on the back and goes, I'm not falling for that again. Nothing on the back. He goes, oh, okay. And basically proceeds to go through these pictures and stuff and talk about, like, do you remember this? Do you remember that? And there's good memories back and forth. But the second picture and thereafter have all got... they're talking about the cage match and they had on SmackDown back in the day. And the first one's read, sorry Ray, and I beat you for the tag titles. The next one reads, after Angle's looking at it as they go through reminiscing, it says, sorry I beat you for the US title. Edge also, the next one reads, sorry I shaved your head bald. And then the next one reads, sorry I started the you suck chant. Then he put there was one that just said butt on it. And then the next last and final picture says, you still suck. And Angle's laughing at the picture and they're going, oh, good to see you. And Edge leaves. And then Angle turns to Ray and Dominic Mysterio, who are sat down, and says, oh, isn't it great that you give me the picture? And then he turns the picture around so they can see it, and then still, you still suck. And it was a nice moment. We had a lot of callbacks from Angle this week on Raw. And do you know what? I liked it. It wasn't too cheesy. They didn't try and make him wrestle and all this stuff. There were a few, it's damn true. I broke one, the usual stuff you can imagine from Angle. And it was cool to see Angle, like I said already. But yeah, I like the fact that Angle wasn't just in one segment. He was in like two, and it was like he was there for the evening. So you rather than just turning up and getting the cheap pop from the crowd, he was a bit more intertwined in the stories that were being told anyway. And I already spoke about it, but after that, this is where we turn into Dom and Ray talking about Clash of the Castle. Do you know what? I'm going to talk about the main event now because the tag match was okay at best, but it was for the women's tag team championships, and obviously this is the final in the tournament. And unfortunately, my picks did not win. Kai and Sky did not win. They take on Aaliyah and Rodriguez. It's a good match, actually, to be honest. In general, again. It kind of shows, I mean, I'm not going to say you're going to be talking about it for years to come, but it shows when you have time to do it. And I'm glad the main event was for the titles, because it was it makes sense. It's been a build for the last 3-4 weeks to get to this point, so I'm glad that it was the main event. It could have been better. It is not the worst thing in the world, but it could have been better. As you'd imagine, Bayley tries to get involved and help Kai and Sky win. When that happens, Bliss turns up and chases after Bayley and gets rid of her. There's a bit of a blind tag going on. So Sky thinks, Dakota Kai, thinks that Rodriguez is the legal woman, but she's not. Aaliyah is, and Aaliyah wins with a roll-up. And we get 1, 2, 3 and a bit of celebration. I'm a little bit perplexed of why. It feels like, especially when you build Bayley, Damage Control, they're calling themselves at the moment. You would figure that would be a good team to put them on. There could be a longer story here. There was interference from both parties, so but also this could also. I'm reading rumors now, even though I've been saying it for the last month, that Naomi and Sasha Banks. It makes sense to me that they would come back, but I'm starting to read rumors now where it could be sooner rather than later, and I hope it is, to be honest. So maybe. That's the thing here. Maybe they want, if they do come back, maybe they want to put the women's tag titles back on Sasha and Naomi, and maybe have a bit more of a longer feud possibly, or down the line. I think there's a bigger story here. I can't see what it is at the moment. I'm just gutted that Dakota Kai and Sky, my picks, did not win. They got to the final, so I suppose I'm half right, I guess, to a degree. But yeah. And before I get to my last match I want to talk about briefly, and it's not so much the match I want to talk about, but a bigger story happening. We have Johnny Gargano, who's been interviewed earlier in the day. He sat in the stands, and basically he's talking about coming back, and and they say, well, what about Theory? You kicked him in the face and stuff like that. He's like, he never called me in 9 months, and blah blah blah. We've had a kid, etc. But Theory comes back with a good point. Theory interrupts and says, well, you didn't call me either, and you're just jealous that I'm the youngest Money in the Bank winner, etc., etc. And I like this, although it wasn't overly heated. It's setting the groundwork. Now, bearing in mind these two were friends in NXT, had a good run in NXT together, and there's a bigger story here that can be told going down the line. Do we see Theory catching at Clash at the Castle? Distinct possibility. Like I said, I don't know how they're going to split these titles. That's the general rumor going around, that they want to split these tag titles. Sorry, not the tag titles. The undisputed title, because the networks aren't happy of only having one champion overall. So we'll see how that pans out, whether that's actually going to go anywhere. And the only other section I really want to talk about from Raw this week is that the Bloodline are there in a sense of no Roman Reigns, as you'd expect, but Jimmy and Jay Uso are there. Sami Zayn this time accompanies them. They're talking about being the ones and blah blah blah, the usual stuff. And how they laid out Drew on SmackDown and stuff like that. Again, building up to that Friday. On this Friday's episode of SmackDown, they're having a 2-year celebration for Roman, because he's been champion for 2 years, which is insane to think about. But Kevin Owens comes out, new Titantron stuff as well. I love this new attitude from Kevin Owens. It's almost like old school KO, which is brilliant. I think fans are responding really well to it. KO basically tells Sami he's an idiot if he thinks the Bloodline like him, which we all know. It's a good promo overall that he cuts. I would recommend watching it if you get a chance. Owens goes on to say the only reason Roman beat him for the Universal title 18 months ago when Owens went for it was because of Jay and Paul Heyman. So Owens wants to fight Jay, and Jay really has a problem with Sami Zayn. He doesn't even pretend to like Sami, whereas Jimmy does. They got this little handshake, high five thing going on. As you can imagine, the match eventually they tell Owens to leave. Owens doesn't leave, and Kevin Owens says, we're wrestlers, let's have a fight. Basically, they get a referee out here and let's have a match. So it's 1-on-1 KO and Jimmy. Sorry, not Jimmy, Jay Uso. The match is good, actually. I liked it. It was good. And it's, again, you've got that story of the Bloodline in the background of Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn that's really good. So, and Kevin Owens did say, we've been friends for years. I consider you like a brother, even though we've had our problems, blah, 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 blah. These guys had some epic matches. And Sami's actually trying to stop the Usos from beating Kevin up, and he's now caught between a friend of his and the Bloodline that he wants to be associated with. So it's quite good on that. I don't know how it's going to pan out, obviously, but the referee gets distracted by Jimmy. Sami is going to hit. They want Sami to hit KO over the head with a chair. Now Jay's got KO's head on the middle rope, holding it down. Sami can't do it. He's sort of in 2 minds whether to do it, and it looks like he's about to, but he's still not sure. And then the referee turns around, so he has to drop the chair and says, I didn't do anything. Then Jimmy starts having a go at Sami, saying you're supposed to hit him, that was the plan. With Jay distracted as well by all this going on. And he turns around and receives a stunner, and KO wins in a pretty good match, to be fair. And it's set up nicely for SmackDown this Friday before Clash at the Castle to see what's happening. And the Bloodline thing is going to be good. I'm just wondering how this is going to go, whether Roman may start to believe Sami a bit more, I don't know, or whether eventually we see Sami come to his senses and maybe Sami Zayn plays a key component at Clash of the Castle, whether on purpose or indirectly, or maybe we see Roman does lose the championship, maybe because of Jey Uso and not Sammy, so we can see a further storyline going down that way. So I mean, we're going to talk more about Clash of the Castle. As I sit here right now talking to you today, talking about Raw and stuff, I am struggling to really sort of go, I don't know who to go for. I know who I want to win, but I don't know who to go for. So, but yeah, overall, I mean, like I said, a few low moments, a few good high moments in there. One of the biggest ones I would say was the Seth Rollins Matt Riddle moment, where it's sort of definitely making it feel a big fight feel. So that's going to be interesting. The matches are being released now for Clash of the Castle, and as I said, we'll talk about those tomorrow night here on In the Corner. So we're back tomorrow, and I'll be with NJB chatting about Clash at the Castle that's going to be taking place on the 3rd of September here in the UK. Hope you're all having a good day. Hope you enjoy the show. Give me a follow at In the Corner WWE, and we'll see you again tomorrow for our Clash at the Castle predictions. Get your predictions in on the Twitter feed, and see who you think is going to win matches at Clash at the Castle, and we'll get those polls out and we'll talk about them tomorrow night. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you all again soon.